Welcome to Grace Church. We're glad that you could join us and connect with our church here. For the best online experience, go ahead and download the Grace Church app. From there, you can take notes, find the Bible, and fill out a response card. You can also find all of our past messages there in case you want to watch, rewatch, or share. Grace Church Online is made possible by faithful and generous people just like you. If you'd like to contribute to the work and ministry of Grace Church, you can do that through the app or at worcestergrace.org. The service will begin shortly, so stand by.
Good morning, everybody. Man, it is so good to see all of you here. Last Sunday of this series called God-Sized Questions, right? We've been journeying together, saying, hey, these are some questions inside of our soul, and what does God actually say about them, right? Today is our fourth one, and to get us started, we're going to kind of go back in time, and we're going to do some reminiscing. And so if you are my age or older, you're a Gen Xer or a boomer or even older than that, we're going to kind of throw some love at you. You know, us older people, it seems like everything today is for the younger generation, and we love that. We want to reach the next generation here at Grace, but sometimes we want to go back and kind of reminisce together. And so I'm going to throw some love your direction if you're my age or older, and I expect you to give me some love back. Is that a deal? Sound good? Okay. Now, if you like Snapchat, you're not going to understand most of the conversation for the next 2 minutes, okay? And that's okay. I'm going to ask you a question in a minute. We'll come back to it, okay? So I'm going to give you some TV shows that we grew up with, us older people, okay? And when I give you the show that you liked, you let me know, okay? How about this one? We'll start with The Love Boat, right? Okay, if you watch that. Or what was this one? Fantasy Island, that's exactly right. Okay. How about Happy Days? Anybody? Yeah, Happy Days. And Laverne and Shirley, right. We're really going back. $6 Million Man and Bionic Woman, right? Some of you are like, wow, who are these people and what are these people talking about? I have no idea, right? Yeah, 38 years ago, next month, who shot JR, right? Big deal on TV. They're like, who's JR and why did he get shot, right? You know, I don't know. Then we moved up. We kind of graduated into TGIF, right? And Family Matters with Urkel and Full House. That's exactly right. And then there was this guy, Alf. And I'll tell you what, go try to explain this show to anybody today. Like, well, there was this family and they had this alien dog-looking thing, and like, just forget it. You have to watch it, right? Here's the deal. All of these shows were kind of cool for us when we were growing up, but here was the catch. If you wanted to watch any of those shows, you had to be in front of the TV when they were on. Because if you weren't, they were gone forever. If you had a favorite show on TGIF and it was at 8:30 on Friday night, you had to sit yourself in front of the TV at 8:30 or you would miss it completely. And that's not how it is anymore, is it? As a matter of fact, if you like Snapchat, right? Okay, now you're kind of back with me. You don't know what just happened in the last couple minutes, and that's okay. If you like Snapchat, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to raise your hand if in the last 3 months you have binge-watched a TV show. Raise your hand. If you have binge-watched, you watched 3 or 4 or 5 episodes of something, right? Most of us can do that now. Why? Because it's all on demand. Any show that we want at any time, we can go and watch it. We don't have to show up at the TV at a certain time to watch it. We can watch it anytime we want. That's because we live in an on-demand world. I can go on Amazon this afternoon, order anything I want, get it to come to my house tomorrow morning, because everything is on demand. And we like that. There's convenience with that. It's exciting, right? We can watch an entire, episode or a series or a season of something in an afternoon or an evening or whatever. And we like that because it gives us options. But what I'm going to propose to you today is that the on-demand culture that we live in has also helped us build a theology of an on-demand God. A God who exists for me. A God that I should have a remote and tell him what to do and he should do it. He should perform the way I want him to perform. And when I want him to show up, he should show up. And when I want him to leave me alone, he should leave me alone. We believe in an on-demand God. Maybe you prayed when you were a kid for God to do something and he didn't do it. Maybe you wanted him to save your parents' marriage. He didn't do it. Maybe you wanted God to heal somebody, but they still died. He didn't do it. All of a sudden you're like, I don't know if I like that God. I want a God who can make my life be what I think it should be. I want a God who will do everything on demand and show up and do exactly what I want. The problem is when he doesn't, your worldview crumbles. And you start to wonder about God. Does he exist? Is he real? Is he there? Is he good? Does he even care? What do we do when we build an on-demand God? Those moments that our worldview crumbles because he doesn't do what we want him to do, all of a sudden we start to doubt who he is. And bigger than that, in our own soul, when we don't know who God is completely, or we make him out to be somebody he's not, then we struggle understanding on who we are. And we start to doubt, man, why am I even here? I'm disillusioned with God and I'm discouraged and I don't even know what I'm here for. Why on earth am I here? And that's today's question. What on earth am I here for? Why are we even here? And our view of God affects our answer to this question. And we attempt to bring some meaning to this question or an answer, and so we develop a God that matches that. And so if I'm going to answer this, why am I here, that I'm here to be happy, I'm going to build a God that gets me to happiness. And that's exactly what our culture has done. Actually, it's not something brand new. It's been around for centuries. I call it the God of America. And the God of America has a name. The religion of the God of America has a name, but it's probably not something you're used to. And today I kind of want you to put your thinking caps on. I want you to journey with me through a process of about 15 years as I've unpacked this, okay? Through a lot smarter people than myself. But I believe the religion of America is what's called moralistic therapeutic deism. Okay, wow, that's a load, right? So you might want to write that down. Moralistic therapeutic deism. I was first introduced to this idea about 15 years ago. I picked up a book by a guy named Christian Smith. He wrote it. It's called Soul Searching. Fascinating work on the American teenager. Did a whole bunch of research. And in there, he studied teenagers that were outside of faith, teenagers that were inside of faith, teenagers that were in the church, teenagers that were outside the church. And he said, what do these teenagers actually believe? And he coined this phrase, the moralistic therapeutic deism. He's the first one to put all of it kind of together. The bottom line of that theology is this: God exists to help me. Therefore, whatever I think I'm here for, God ought to give me. Here's a quote from his book. What we heard from most teens is essentially that religion makes them feel good, that it helps them make good choices, that it helps resolve problems and troubles, and it serves their felt needs. In the simplest terms, religion is essentially a tool for people to use to get what they want. And what do they want? Well, that's determined by how they feel. That's the God of America today. So, when you look at God, the Bible, prayer, church, morality, they're only as valuable as they are useful. So if they can help me get what I want out of life, that's good. But if they don't give me what I want out of them, I don't need them at all. If they help me fulfill my demand for happiness, then that's good. I mean, I want to be a good person. I believe in doing good. That's moralistic. I want to feel good about what I do. That's the therapeutic part. And I believe there's a higher power. There's some supreme being out there. I don't know if he's the God of the Bible, but there is a higher power out there. That's the deism part. And actually, it's been a part of the American DNA for centuries. And it turns God into some sort of divine butler who waits on us hand and feet, or a cosmic therapist who helps us feel better about who we are. And the reason we like it is because we can put ourselves right where we like to be in the narrative. where it's all about us. We can control God, and we can put ourselves right where we are most comfortable. But here's the problem. The on-demand God doesn't exist. He is no God at all. The on-demand God says that, hey, God exists to serve me. The reality is we exist to serve God. And I found that life is way more fulfilling when I serve Him. Why? Because Jesus is not a coach. Jesus is not a helper. Jesus is not an advisor. He is the King of a kingdom. The Gospel of Matthew, the first book of the New Testament, starts in Matthew 1:1 and tells us that Jesus is of the line of the King of David. He's in a kingly heritage. And only when we understand who He is can we ever make sense of why we're here. And honestly, we quickly forget where we actually fit in this narrative. And so we humans are searching for fulfillment and meaning and purpose and happiness in life. And yet God says it's found in serving the King who is building His own kingdom. And that's what Jesus came to preach. Matthew's Gospel, chapter 4 says, "From that time on, Jesus began to preach, 'Repent, for the kingdom of heaven has come near.'" God is a king of a kingdom. And we are building a kingdom. The question is, whose kingdom are we building? And we'll get to that in a little bit. God is not some sort of celestial sugar daddy in the sky who gives you everything you want. He's not some sort of genie in a bottle that'll grant you 3 wishes. He's not some sort of eternal Coke machine where you put the prayer in and get the blessing out. That's not who God is. And if you don't understand that and you put God in a box defined by the terms that you use as we started all the way back at the beginning of the series saying, when you do that to God, you lose who you are. You have to understand who He is. Well, who is He? He's the creator and we're the created. He's the potter and we're the clay that He's shaping, right? He is the Lord, that means master. He is the leader of all and we are His servants. God has a heart. And it's always loving. He has wisdom and intelligence where His ways are way above ours. He understands things we can't even come close to comprehending. His presence in the power of His Spirit is with us. And it's more than enough to walk through whatever we're facing in life. He's the King of a kingdom and He is here. But here's the catch. Here's the tension. Here's where we run into trouble. His kingdom is completely opposite and upside down of the on-demand God's kingdom. His kingdom flips that whole theology of an on-demand God upside down. God does not exist to make us happy. He doesn't exist to make you happy. He doesn't exist to make me happy. You exist for way more than happiness. He's created you to experience more than happiness. And so how do you answer this question then? Why are we here? What on earth are we here for? I want to give you a 2-part answer to that. The first part is this. We need to know Him. We need to know Him. You are here to know God and to know Him personally. Now, our lives have some sort of focus or centerpiece to them, much like a dartboard. This dartboard's in our basement, in our family, man. We love to play some competitive games, and so we'll stand down in the basement, and right, we're trying to hit the bullseye. If we can hit the bullseye, then, we win. And so we play these games. We're always focusing towards something. Hey, I had all 4 this hour. That's pretty impressive, okay? Right? So we're focusing to the bullseye on the board, and the person that's closest typically wins, right? Life has a focus, has a bullseye. It has something that we're aiming for, that we're headed towards. And I'll tell you that most of us, yes, even inside the church who say it's not this way, the bullseye is to be happy. We just want to be happy. We want our kids to be happy. We want our spouse to be happy. We want to live a happy life. We just want to be happy. What if that's the wrong bullseye? What if that has completely missed the point? Because if that is the bullseye, to be happy, then you're going to expect everything in your life to point towards that. And when it doesn't, you don't want anything to do with it. you're driven by something. Maybe it's success. Maybe it's achievement. You get more accomplished and then you're happy. Or maybe it's, acceptance. The more people that accept you, then finally you'll be happy. Then happiness is really what's driving you. Jesus says, I want to invite you to something completely different than that. I want to invite you to something that's upside down compared to that. And Jesus invited his first followers to it, and he's inviting you and me to the same thing today. In Matthew chapter 4, verse 19, he says, come follow me. He says, there are a whole group of fishermen that are out there doing their job. They're just doing what they're supposed to do, right? They're fishing. And he says, hey, you, I want you to stop what you're doing, and I want you to follow me. I don't want you to make the aim of your life anymore, all the things that you've been making it. I want you to follow me. I want you to spend time with me. I want you to hang out with me. I want you to be around me. I want you to know me. I want to know you. What does it mean to know God? I'm going to give you 3 words you can kind of remember what it means to know God with. First of all, created. You were created by God in love. He created you and put his image inside of you. You were created on purpose and for a purpose. He put inside of you the image of who he is. You were created and fearfully, wonderfully made. That's why you're here, because he created you. Second word is sin. He created you in love, but sin has caused a problem. That image that's inside of you that is God's image has been distorted because of the potential for sin. All of us were created with the tendency to not want to do life God's way, but to do it our way. God's way is described in the Bible, and we constantly go against that. We were born with the tendency to, and we all have lived it out. And it's a big deal. You can see the effects of sin everywhere around you. Sin distorts what God created. And so there's created and sin, and then the third word is solution. Created, sin, solution. God has a solution for the sin problem to restore you back to how he created you. His solution is in love, giving his son Jesus, who died on the cross in your place, to take the punishment that you and I deserved for our sin. That's the solution to the problem of sin, to restore the image that was created in you so that you can know God. The solution is what allows you to know God. And in love, he paid the price on the cross, securing our forgiveness. I love how Paul says it to the Ephesians in the Message Bible. It's in Christ that we find out who we are and what we're living for. Long before we first heard of Christ and got our hopes up, he had his eye on us. He had designs on us for glorious living. Part of the overall purpose he's working out in everything and everyone. Listen, you are not an accident. You are not a mistake. You are here on purpose. Long before your parents conceived you, you were conceived in the mind of God, and he thought of you first. He made you alive. He breathed life into you so that you could experience all of who he is. And he wants to know you. And one of the reasons we seek out happiness is because it's a counterfeit idea of what God really wants. It's just like a fake news concept of who God is. We want happiness, and he really wants to give us joy. We want to feel good about things, but he wants to give us something that'll last through the times that we don't feel good, through the times we don't get our way, through the times it doesn't all work out. The bullseye, the centerpiece, the aim is to know God. It's to know him personally. That's why we exist, to know God. First part. Second part of the answer to the question is to make him known. First part is to know him, and the second part is to make him known. Seems pretty simple, right? But you were made for a mission, and once you have that bullseye and that aim and that centerpiece figured out, then everything in your life is focused in on that. If the centerpiece is happiness, everything's about making you happy. If the centerpiece is about knowing God, everything's about making him known to you and others. So you were made for a mission, and God is at work all around you. He's working in people's lives. He's pointing people in different places. The question is, will you join him? He's inviting you to, just like he invited his first followers. After he told him to come follow him, he said, and I will send you out to fish for people. Now that made sense to them because they were fishing. How does that make sense to us? I want to give you purpose and meaning and significance in your life. You will no longer work for a paycheck. Oh, you'll get one and you'll have to pay the bills and take care of things. But the purpose that you're here is no longer just to get that. Your purpose is going to last forever. These were just fishermen. Now they were fishing for people that they could love and they could serve. And that's what Jesus was about the whole time he was here. Think about his ministry back at the beginning in Luke chapter 2. He says, I'm here to do the Father's business. In John chapter 19, when he was on the cross, he said, it is finished. What? The Father's business, why I'm here, the mission, the reason, the purpose that I'm here. I have a mission, and it's to make the Father known. How do you do that? How do you make God known? How do you live out your purpose? Well, if you went to the Browns game today, and you stood outside of the stadium, as you walked in, there inevitably would be someone with a sign that they were holding, and it would say something about judgment, hell, and perish, and have horrific pictures on it in the name of God, trying to make him known. Now, I am not here to judge that person, but I'm also here to tell you, I don't think that's what God had in mind. So what did he have in mind? How do you make God known in the middle of a moralistic, therapeutic, deistic culture? A culture that wants it to be all about us, culture that wants it to be all about how I feel, culture that believes in a higher power, but it's not God. How do you make God known in that? I want to give you some reminders, some tips, some ideas to do that. 3 of them, okay? First, live authentically. You will get no hearing in anybody's life in our world today unless you want to be real. People are sick of the fake. They don't have any time for that anymore. You see, the bullseye of living, if you're a follower of Jesus, is to seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you, right? So we're trying to seek Jesus first, yet the reality is we're not all that. Listen, I'm a pastor, but I'm not perfect at all. Some of you think that maybe I'm up here because somehow I do the Christian thing better than most people, or maybe better than everybody here, right? That's not true. You want to know why I'm up here? The complete and total grace of God. I don't deserve to be up here. I just want to be used by God. I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. I want to make him known. And I'm telling you, if you have to position yourself here and everyone else here, the culture we live in, the religion of the day, will completely tune you out. You come at it humbly. That's why I try to keep it real up here all the time, because there's really no other way for me. It's like we have to keep it real. Just be authentic. Hey, you know what? It's by the grace of God. That'll get you the opportunity to do the next thing, to listen carefully. To listen carefully. James says, be slow to speak and quick to listen. We have 2 of these and 1 of these. And maybe if you're listening to this message and you're not a follower of Jesus, and you say, yeah, this is where I struggle, because Christians, all they want to do is a whole bunch of this at me. They want to yell at me. They want to judge me. They want to tell me where I'm wrong. And so I just want to tune them out. Listen, I'll call it a divine moment on a jog this week that I was on. I was running, and I ran into a young adult, and we were having this conversation, and this person said, listen, all I'm trying to do, I'm wrestling with questions, is find someone that will sit down and listen to me. And they said it with so much passion. I mean, really listen to me. Listen to my questions. Christians need bigger ears than mouths. Christians believe in all these things, but there's going to be one more. We tend to build from the bottom up rather than the top down. Listen to people's story. Listen to where they're struggling. Listen to how God is moving. Then you'll have the opportunity to love completely. To love completely. To have the chance to speak into their world. See, the motive of the mission is love. The motive of the kingdom is love. You can always serve people, and you don't necessarily have to love them, but if you love one person, you will serve them. Love drives us to serve people. Now, some of you who are Christ followers, you're like, yeah, but you have to get to the truth at some point, preacher. You're right. But Paul made it really clear that we're to speak the truth in love in Ephesians 4:15. The content is the truth. The motive is love. And so if you have love without truth, you have a warm fuzzy and you're wasting everybody's time. If you have truth without love, that's completely ungodly. But when you put truth and love together, it's transforming. Where you leave room for questions. You listen to people's hearts. You share your own struggle. And you explain the grace of God and why you're here. It's not because you're something special or you have it all figured out. It's because you understand who God is, and that in place has helped you understand who you are. And your aim isn't happiness anymore, because that never works out. Instead, your aim is to know Him and to make Him known. That's why you're here. You're here to build that kingdom. Why are you here? To know Him, to make Him known. To know Him, and to make Him known. To know Him, and to make Him known. You're building somebody's kingdom. It's either the kingdom of your happiness or the kingdom of knowing Him and making Him known. Let me give you an example of this. You think about the keyboard that's behind us here. This keyboard is nothing more than a box. It's just a box. It's plugged in. On its own, it doesn't do anything. Now, we all enjoy listening to someone who knows how to play this thing, right? They can play the keys and the music is beautiful and it's inspiring. But this thing doesn't do that on its own. This thing requires a musician. And when a musician comes, that's good timing, wasn't it? That's really good timing for Ben. When a musician comes to play, all of a sudden, they can take this box of potential, this box that has the ability, and they can bring it to life. And I think you and I are like the keyboard. We were created with this potential that could blow the socks off the place because we were created in the image of God. But it takes the great musician to show up to use us. We can't do it on our own. We can't make the music, but when we're in the hands of God and we understand why we're here and we live to fulfill His purpose for our lives, all of a sudden there's this music that comes out that can inspire others. There's this music that comes out that can connect with people. There's this music that comes out that helps us serve people. You know, we believe here at Grace, saved people serve people. Salvation isn't the end, friends. It's the beginning. The beginning of being a kingdom agent that can restore the image of God in this world. To be useful by God for something that could be inspiring, a movement that's way bigger than me, a movement that will inspire and change lives. Here in Africa, as we learned a little bit ago, all over the world, we get to be a part of that. And so we've been building for this entire series to this final question. We've been talking about all these God-sized questions. This last one is a soul-sized question. And it's not meant for God. It's meant for us. The question that we leave with is this: your kingdom or His? My kingdom or His? My happiness or knowing Him? Which is it going to be? Whose kingdom are you going to build? Because you are going to build a kingdom. You are building a kingdom. Every day that you live, you're building a kingdom. The question is, which one? Which kingdom do you want to be about building? Would you bow your heads with me today? God, we want to thank You for Your loving heart and Your higher than us ways, and that You're a God that's big enough to take our questions. God, for just a second, we want to kind of just sit in Your presence, process what we've been hearing, and allow Your Spirit room to work. Maybe we need to admit to you today, God, that there's something off in the focus of our life. Our aim and our focus has been on something or someone that's not you. God, if there's someone listening to this message that has that problem, I pray that they would admit it and they would ask you for the courage to replace and evict whatever's in the center and replace it with you. And God, I know that we know someone who we can influence this week, someone that we can make you known to. God, give us the boldness to live authentically, to listen carefully, and to truly love completely the people around us. Help us to be your kingdom agents. Oh God, that tomorrow we would wake up in the morning on Monday. We hate Mondays. You know why we hate Mondays, God? Because we have no idea why we're here. Maybe tomorrow we would wake up and say, wow, I get to be an agent of the kingdom today. I'm here on purpose. God, use me. I know there are people listening that you need to accept the purpose of why you're here on earth. I spent the great portion of this message today letting you know that the on-demand God doesn't exist. Yet there's one time God can be on demand. That's when you admit your need for forgiveness. When you say, God, I know I've sinned, I need your forgiveness, come and have your way in my life. He will always respond to that. And you can do that right here with every head bowed, every eye closed. Just say, God, Jesus, I need your forgiveness for my sins, and I surrender. I give you control right here today. That's how you begin to know God and to make him known. God, thank you for being a God that can handle our questions, for being a God who is big enough to take them from us. God, thank you for being a God who answers our questions and gives us the truth to live by. Lord, give us this supernatural courage we're going to need to walk out of here this week and replace my happiness with knowing you and making you known. Nothing else will work, God. I pray that you would stir in our hearts this fire that is so strong for you. We love you and we thank you. Help us to know you and to make you known in Jesus' name. Amen.
We hope that this service was just what you needed today. Whether you've been around church your whole life or today was your very first time, we believe that God has something for you and your life. If God revealed the next step for you, would you share that with us? We would love to pray for you. You can share questions or prayer requests through our app or at info@worcestergrace.org. This online service was made possible through your generous gifts. If you'd like to contribute to the ministry of Grace Church, text Grace Church Woo to 77977 to begin. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you right back here next week.